On my way, fellas, on my way. Just getting a top up on my beer here. Checking some audio. Making sure everything is working here. No glitches. No glitches, please. Alright, oh hell. Let's go ahead and play that intro I played at the last live stream. While it's still fresh in my mind. Alright, smash that like button, fellas, just like Harold says. Alright, here we go. I thought I'd play this one more time before it gets old. Cheers. Oh, that was a fun time. That was a blast. Oh, man. Every time I think about quitting the hobby, I see videos like this of delicious home-brewed brews being poured out of the tap and consumed on video, and it makes me want to brew tomorrow or tonight. Oh man, alright. Who we got here tonight? Chris Englehart, the Matchmaker Challenge, Kurt Walter, Iroquois Nation, Theron, hey Theron, Beer Me Too, Kurt Peck, Rob Beauregard. Man, a lot of people come here. The Chad Bowman, or C. Bowman 75, and yeah. All the guests I had in these videos over the years. Wish I had more people here for the live streams and videos, but still fun. Still fun. Alright. Probably about done here. Let's see. Alright, that's probably enough. Yeah, that's probably enough. We saw that clip on the last live stream. So. Hey everyone, welcome here. Just making sure everything is all set up here, from the audio to the visuals to all my gauges and dials and things are all working right here. It's been a few weeks since the last live stream, and I was hoping to do it more often than that, and I almost didn't do one this week, which would have been a shame, only having done one in the past month. So I had to work this one in. A little short notice, yeah. Only a couple days notice, or maybe a day's notice, honestly, but it's all right. I had nothing official planned tonight. No guests on the show, stream, whatever. I didn't have any plans to have anyone on tonight. I was actually wanting to do some deep dives on some topics tonight, and also answer some questions, of course, as well. I asked through my community page on YouTube some topic ideas that you might have had out there. I got some of those written down here. And I also have some others on my mind too. Actually, I'm going to take this headset off because it's got a bit of a slight delay echo in it, and it kind of throws me off mentally speaking. It's kind of hard to think when I'm hearing myself back in my ears a half a second later, right? So I can see my audio levels are working, so you should be able to hear me just fine, I imagine. Let me take a quick look at the list of who's here. So currently, we have 43 concurrent viewers. Excellent. And there's more joining on. So welcome everyone coming on board. So I did a little question here, little survey, little informal poll asking about topics for you tonight. It's not all over the map, but everyone wants to learn about something in particular to their interest, right? Which is why we do some of these streams. You can ask your questions here in the chat. I'll try to get to them as I can find them. Again, just for those who are new or newer, if you want to catch my attention and I'm not seeing or responding to anything you're posting there, you can do what's called a super chat. I don't think the mobile platforms allow for it. I think it's mainly PC or computer-based viewers. I think can only do that, as from what I can tell. But you can post a super chat down there. It'll put your name in bold and let me know right there, and let everyone know right there on the screen that you have a question or a comment that you want to give and hear back about, or just toast me, whatever you want to do there. But I will try to learn by looking through the list here, some questions I may find along the way. But I don't want to be the guy who just recites questions, because it does get boring. It makes for boring viewing as well. But I did have some topic ideas. Some ideas out there tonight were recipe design, which is dear to my heart since I have my own brewing software, a spreadsheet essentially, right, that I made myself and have been developing over the years. So recipe design is a topic dear to my heart. All the formulas and relationships of things behind the scenes are kind of all up here, conceptually and technically in those cells in that spreadsheet to do the actual calculations, so I don't have to do it myself all the time, right? Other topics might be things that people are asking about fermentation, whether or not and why I don't do things like secondary fermentation, more about pressure fermentation, things along the dry hopping in the fermenter. I got a few questions. So there seems to be a theme of a lot of people, not a lot, but a number of you asking about things about fermentation. There was some questions about brew gear and equipment that I've acquired or bought over the years. Would I buy it again if I knew better after having used some of these things? Which actually made me think of the topic of what would I do differently if I were to start brewing from scratch again, knowing what I know now. So that would be an interesting topic. I can go on plenty of rants about unnecessary brewing equipment. I have a lot of opinions on it now, after all these years of brewing, and in particular the last 10 years or so, well, maybe a half dozen years on YouTube, where I've been getting some equipment sent to me by some of the companies to try out and get on my channel, right, and things like that. I have some opinions on some of those, as well as other products I'd never bought for reasons that I can explain, but I guess it could be all over the map here tonight. I really want to get a gauge here from y'all who are actually here, who want to hear some of these topics. So everybody, welcome again. Hey, looking good. Thanks everyone. Trey's rock and roll. Hey Larry, hey, how you doing? Oh yeah, congratulations. Yeah, Mark. Yeah, Salvation Brewing. Hey, how you doing, man? Hey, good job. Hey, everyone, welcome. I got a nice comment here from Mark. Well, okay, sorry, Mark, you got bumped. I got a super chat from the Matchmaker Challenge, $10. Hooah! Cheers! Salute! Says, always happy to support the cause, Larry. You put out lots of content that I've learned from. At least I could do is give back. Cheers, sir. Salute to you, man, and cheers to the Matchmaker. It's much appreciated, sir. Let's see, what do you got here? Yeast and the Beast, making some comments. Excellent. Very good to see all these people here. KA, $5. Awesome. Thank you very much. KA says, been using your recipes and spreadsheet for years now. Thank you, sir. You are welcome. It sounds like maybe that's a topic I can touch on tonight, if that's of interest to you a little bit. I have a new version 5 of the spreadsheet that I actually posted about a month or more ago, kind of a soft posting. I made a comment or announcement about it, but I didn't make a video yet about it. But I could talk a bit about what I've done to it since the last version, if you guys want to hear about that too. Stevio, 2626, $4.99, sir. Thank you very much for the super chat. He says, let's go, Brandon. Thanks for the spreadsheet. Another spreadsheet comment. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about recipe design tonight. And if I do, because I know from the surveys I've done, about half of you don't use my spreadsheet, half of you do. So I probably will, if I were to touch on that topic of recipe design, I'll try to make it software agnostic, but I probably will use my spreadsheet as some of the examples, as some of the visual aids at least. So if you don't mind, I could do that as well. So awesome, guys. Really cool. So some people are commenting, Mark and Chris, you guys say that you bought the Spike Solo 20 gallon, and you guys like it. You got a pretty good efficiency on one of your batches there, Mark. It looks like 85%. Really cool. That's actually, I've been kind of having a bit of a roller coaster with my Spike Solo, going through my records because I keep records, right? And I've had kind of a roller coaster with my efficiencies on that thing. I haven't been able to get a consistent, repeatable, efficiency on it, partially because I'm always changing the recipes as I change recipes as often as I change my underwear. Right? I'm trying different styles all the time, so that could be a contributing factor. But I've always been struggling. I would get low efficiency, I would get high efficiency, I would get middle of the road efficiency. So when I design my recipes, it's been kind of hard to predict when I'm going to get off my Solo, and I think I need to really do a deep dive on that system to really lock in some consistency and as to how it does things. Oh, Brian, hey, Short Circuited Brewers, $10. Larry's podcast in full effect. Hey, man, Brian, I got to get you back on here on the live stream, man. We got to get you to call in some night. We missed you last time we did this with Chad and Clay because your internet was out. So I told everyone about that. So we missed you, but we had to do that again here, man. We got to get you on. Let's see here. Yeah, Brian's alive. He's alive. Yeah, Brian, I don't think I've seen a video from you either. I know who's me to cast the first stone, right? I haven't put out a video in a few weeks, and before that, it was weeks before that. So I've been kind of busy, as you probably all feel the same stress of work life, home life, family life. Just so many things going on. It's hard enough to find time to do one hobby, let alone multiple hobbies, or to record and document your hobby while you're doing your hobby, and then make that a hobby of yours to document the video and post it. So just imagine how much time that takes. So it has been kind of tough on me, and more and more so in recent years, especially because of the change in my lifestyle I've had from a job switch I had about exactly 3 years ago. Exactly 3 years ago, I was actually going to be quitting this channel because I may have said this in past streams, so forgive me if I'm repeating, but I started this channel basically out of boredom back in 2011 or 12, and it was out of boredom because at my previous job, I was kind of in a dead-end job, wasn't learning anything new, wasn't doing anything new. It was like the same thing day in, day out, day in and day out. And to keep myself sane, I decided to delve into a little bit of video editing, and then therefore YouTube, and I've been learning a lot in that hobby now. And I did that for several years until I really got tired of that job, quit that job, switched to my current job 3 years ago, and it's been the exact opposite. I can barely catch my breath each day. So it's been a whirlwind. And at that time, I thought, okay, I'm going to have to quit doing my hobbies, including YouTube, and I've been finding ways to stay with it, but it has slowed down, as you obviously realize, and it's been kind of a challenge for me, and I'm not sure how to get back on track other than quit my current job, which I don't want to do yet. So we'll see. Pack Attack, $4.99. Hey man, thank you very much. Cheers, Prost, Skol, Nostrovia, whatever your ethnicity may be. Cheers, even, of course. A simple cheers will do. Thanks for the super chat. So Brian says he's been working on a special project for work. Yeah, I know, brutal. I can tell. Yeah, I imagine, man. Well, get back to me on that collaboration that we still want to do if you haven't had a chance. I mean, it's no rush. For those of you who still are kind of not in the know about that, Brian and I have tried twice in the past year and a half or so to get together, actually physically together, to do some collaboration videos or live streams or both or whatever, right? And the first time was right around the 2020 March timeframe when all the states were doing their COVID lockdowns. So we canceled that, and then we were supposed to do it again a month ago, but then I hurt my foot, which is now healing, so we had to cancel that. So hopefully we'll find another opportunity soon, and that will be great. I think that'll be fun. Road trip. Woo! BEER-N-BBQ Nation, $20. Thank you very much, Harold. Some men say the earth is flat, some men say the earth is round, but if it is flat, Could Parliament make it round? And if it's round, could the Kings command to flatten it? Sir Thomas More. I think I've heard that before. I think that's in like your email signature, isn't it? I think I've seen that from you before, or somebody somewhere. So, all right. Well, excellent. Take a quick scan at the chat here before I go into detail. So I guess I had some topic ideas, and I guess maybe I don't know if I want to go into detail yet. I think I'm still more of in a fun mood. I know going into recipe design is fun, but it could also be a little bit technical at times. I actually have done a past, this is interesting for those of you who don't know. Oh, look at that. I got stats and streams and things showing up on here. If I were to show you this recipe design tutorial I did in September of 2020. I actually had done one of these on a live stream before, and it's here on my channel. You can call Recipe Design Tutorial Live, and so you can go there and find it. It's on a slightly older version of my spreadsheet, but the principles is what I was focused on, and not so much the spreadsheet. It was about how to calculate the grain, the water, the hops ratios, and all that kind of stuff, right? So that may be a little bit dated. So if we don't get to the recipe design topic tonight, there's always that backstop there that you can go back to and take a look at later. And maybe I could even do a separate recipe design live stream again, just like this one that was recorded. That's dedicated entirely to recipe design, so I can get some questions and answer them live, like a real class types situation, rather than just a recording that you watch and I have to answer comments and questions and afterwards. So the last time we did this, it was actually a pretty big success, I thought, and I meant to do more of those. Of course, time gets away from you, right? So maybe I should plan on doing a dedicated live stream just on that topic alone. And I'm not sure if right now is the best time to do it because I didn't announce it ahead of time. A bunch of you are probably not here for that topic and want to hang out and do whatever instead for the time being. So maybe I will actually put that back in my back pocket, and we can then go on with some of the other things that we were going to talk about tonight. Ed Cozart, hey, from Quincy, Illinois. Hey, thanks, Ed, for joining. Joseph Keene, everyone, welcome, everybody. Cheers to you again. So some of the other topics that you guys were asking about, I think I had that here in the community tab on my channel. Let me go take a quick look here. We wanted to talk about some things. Some people were asking me one question was like brewing gadgets. Oh, you know what? I didn't share my screen. Hold on, fellas. Let me go back to the web browser. Hold on just a minute here. So you should be able to see the web browser comments now. So I asked a question here yesterday. I said, is anyone up for a live stream Thursday? Topic suggestions and so on and so forth. So you got some comments in here. What question was about brewing gadgets, things that he gives some examples. I don't have half of these things, right? And there's a reason why I don't have half of these things, honestly. And I can talk about why as well. But he wants to know what works, what doesn't, and what would I buy again. And that made me think about the topic that maybe I can go on a rant about what I would do differently if I were starting brewing today and I was advising my younger self or whatever, my future self as to what to do, what to buy, what not to buy, right? So that would be a nice thing to talk about here tonight, right? Another question, Salvation Brewing was asking about secondary fermentation. When, why is it worth it? Recipe building was another comment from Birdie Bro. Fermentation, again, at higher temperatures. A question about pressure. So there's a number of fermentation questions in here. So I guess we can touch on that as well as some brewing gadgets. Let's see. So let me go back to the solo screen. There we go. Oh, look at that. $10 from Richard Eldridge. Shout out to you, Larry. Short Circuit Brewers and Yeast and the Beast. Thanks for helping me make drinkable beer from my barbecues at home. Hey, there you go, man. I got the name. Beer and barbecue, or in barbecue, whatever. Stupid play on the word and, but thanks for joining. I got a question from Yeast and the Beast there. I just caught that before it rolled off the screen. It says, I don't think people are worried how to build a recipe, but more where to start building a recipe from scratch. Like what ingredients to go with what styles and at what percentages. Ah, yeah. Well, that's true too. And that's always like a learning experience. It's always an evolution, right? Because if you were just to jump into a hobby and not know anything, you don't know anything. So what you do is that you go find other people's recipes and copy them, and you don't know, well, is that a really good recipe? I mean, is that much grain and all that grain? It's like, this recipe's got everything but the kitchen sink in it. It's probably a bad recipe, right? I kind of relate those to the food side of things, right? I mean, it's like the analogy is the same. It's you have a craving for something, a beer style or a food. You go online, you open some cookbooks, you start looking at things, and you find some examples. And I think one of the worst offenders, I think, is like allrecipes.com for food and some other ones, because you go there and it's just like everyone's just got this crap piled in there. And if you know about cooking and ratios and when to use and when not to use things like baking powder or baking soda or both, for certain things is one example, and people just kind of just throw it all in there. You know, they don't know what they're doing most of the time, and they're just muddling everything together, hoping something comes out tasty. It's the same thing with the beer stuff, right? It's like you want to kind of keep it simple. Most of the time, you add some specialty grains in there and certain percentages, and those percentages tend to be based upon past experience that others have done, or beer styles that are documented out there. So it's like you can memorize all this stuff. And I can't memorize all this stuff. I mean, I cheat too. I go on, look at some other recipes I've done of a certain style, or go find recipes online of a certain style. I'll find multiple ones, kind of go, okay, I didn't like those hops. I like these hops. Oh, I don't have that grain. I have this other grain that's similar, and oh, crap. I think I just lost my connection. Let me see. I think I'm back. I think I lost a connection there. I hope you guys didn't drop out too long there. I don't know what happened here. I lost my connection. Darn it. Anyway, so as far as recipe design goes, there's some copying involved. There's some tweaking involved. But I've never really copied a recipe except in my early days when I first started, or if I was doing a clone recipe. Right. But even with a clone recipe, like if someone gives you a recipe from a commercial beer and the brewer actually gives you the recipe, like in certain magazines, like Brew Your Own or Zimmergy, those have recipes from brewers from their own brew pubs showing the recipes. Well, those are designed at certain efficiencies for their systems, right? So even with those recipes, you need to scale and adapt their recipe to your system and its efficiency and losses too, to get the same end result, right? So it's not always like a direct copy and paste. Most of the time you're always tweaking things, but I've never done a kit of any kind. I just started an extract brewing, got tired of that, jumped into the all grain. I kind of waited several years because I was kind of a little intimidated and a little too cheap to jump into all grain. From the horrors and scare tactics that a lot of the old homebrewing books were throwing at me at the time. It seemed completely intimidating, the way they were writing this stuff. And even though they said, don't worry, have a homebrew, the way things were written kind of made it imply things were way more complex than they had to be. And once I got through that mental barrier and jumped right in, I just been going on ever since. Let me take some questions here. And I must have skipped some people here. Oh, Everyday Barbecue and Cooking. Hey, Mike, how's it going, man? Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well too, sir. Mike's got his YouTube channel. He lives near me, actually, less than an hour away up the road. He's been here for a couple collabs on my channel in the past. You can find him on some of my old food videos, actually. Thanks for joining, Mike. Hope things are going well for you too, man. Hey, Kyle Steele, $5. Have you had any experience with coloring the head of your beer? I used a beet extract, gave great red colored foam. I cut bitterness with lactose. Oh, that's interesting. No, I never even cared about the color of my foam. Honestly, that's actually pretty interesting. Beet juice will definitely make it red. Make the whole thing red. It'll make your lips red, your fingers red, everything that touches red stains, doesn't it? Yeah, that's something. No, the only coloring I've ever done on my beer is only because of the beer style, right? If you have a nice, really dark roasted grain stout or something, the head's going to be a little bit tan, right? Whereas you're doing something like a mild ale like this or something, and it'll just be like white foam, basically, right? No, but that's interesting. I never even considered caring about doing that. That's actually something interesting. So, what other colors could you make with a beer foam? Like blue, I don't know, purple. It's just funny. Oh man. So that, but yeah. So I guess we can do a separate session on recipe design. But there's just so much to it. If the goal is to learn how to brew a bunch of different styles, that's not just a 1 hour stream. That's going to be a series of classes and videos to go over all the different styles, or just open up a beerclopedia, if there is like an encyclopedia for beers out there, all these different websites that show all the different beer styles, and even the beer judge certification guidelines that just came out recently for 2021. Actually, that's a good segue. I actually just this morning and last night and this morning, because it took some time to do it, I actually updated my brewing spreadsheet. If I wanted to show you that really quick for those who are interested in that. Oh, hold on, I gotta switch views now. If I go to my spreadsheet, I actually, in version 5.0.1, which I just saved this morning and I have not yet posted online, there are these beer judge certification program guidelines and the parameters, right? And they actually recategorized, not a lot, but a number of them. They renamed some, they added some, they renumbered some. So, and where that's important is, at least on my spreadsheet and other software tools as well, is that there will be a section, hold on a minute. There will be a section for the style, right? So you pick your style, and this is my spreadsheet, of course, but you can pick a style, and you can get the mins and maxes for that range of style for that beer. So when you design your recipe, here you can actually then make sure, if you want, if you care about these things, to make sure that your recipe is within those guidelines in terms of original gravity and IBUs and color and such, right? So yeah, so that's what I was doing this morning, because they just released about a month and a half ago, I think it is now, those new guidelines. So I thought that was kind of cool, and thought I'd get that in that spreadsheet. So there. Let's see what else we got here. Read some of your comments briefly here. Could I zoom in a bit? Oh, you mean on the spreadsheet? Sorry. Hold on a minute. Let me go back. Spreadsheet. It should be showing now. So yeah, sorry. I keep forgetting you guys are looking on your cell phones and things, probably, rather than on a large TV screen or a large monitor. So let me zoom in some more here for you. I don't have my mouse with me. I wasn't planning on doing this much navigation, honestly. So yeah, so there's a style here, right? Then these are the style guidelines that I have on my spreadsheet, but other tools have them as well. And so they go from 1A, American Light Lager, all the way down to 34C experimental beer, right? And everything in between, even some historical beers, styles, and these are all new in the new guidelines. I noticed because I just worked on them this morning. But if you pick a style like Goza, that's new. So if you pick on that, it'll fill in on my spreadsheet and also on other tools those guidelines. So you have a min and a max of original gravity, a min and a max final gravity, your IBUs, min and max, ABV, and SRMs, right? And so what I do, at least on my spreadsheet, is that I take all the summaries of all the calculations from all your grains and waters and hops and all the factors put into the process, and it displays the as designed expected parameters for your as designed recipe, and then on the right side will be the actuals on brew day. So as you enter in values, you'll get the real values. One thing I did though is that I turned things bold that are not in the window of the range, right? So this beer was actually this dark mild that I'm drinking here, and I just changed the style from dark mild to Goza, and because now that the guideline parameters have changed, the final gravity is actually above the max, and so is the IBUs and the SRMs. Well, of course, because the underlying recipe was actually a dark mild. So if I go back to the dark mild, which was, I forgot which number that was now. I should have took a mental note. Dark mild. My OG still looks a little high. Not sure what happened there. Anyway, so that's the gist of that. Again, I can go into details on the spreadsheet another time for those who specifically want to see that. Not all of you on here want to see another half hour discussion on that spreadsheet specifically. So I probably will set up a dedicated stream next time, or maybe in the near future, maybe not the next exact time, but maybe the time after or something, to actually go into detail on that, like I did in that past live stream video on recipe design. So one of the other questions I've seen about secondary fermentation, what are my thoughts on it? So I could probably answer that here now, is that I had done a video several years ago now. Geez, time flies when you're doing this stuff. I thought it was more recent than that, but I kind of did, not a rant, but I kind of explained. I had people asking me a lot of questions in my earlier brewing videos, why I don't do secondary fermentation, which means when your beer is about 3/4 done, and after a few days in your primary vessel, you'll rack it to the secondary and let it finish fermenting. I always questioned that when I started brewing, but I did it because that's what all the homebrew books and guides said to do. And then over the years, as people experiment, as the homebrewing hobby grew, other people were putting their results of skipping that process and how well they were doing without it, right? And so I gave it a try, had the same exact experience. My beer actually got better from not doing that racking process, because it's kind of pointless, honestly, in my opinion. I mean, with wines and meads and everything, you generally let the alcoholic beverage, beer or whatever, ferment out, and then if you want to bulk age it, you go bulk age it, fine. But there's no need to transfer mid fermentation. So that's why. I did a video on that a while back, and ever since then, I have not done a secondary fermentation. I do aging vessels. So the bourbon stout that I did recently, that I just ran out of yesterday, actually, I poured my last half a glass of that wonderful bourbon stout I brewed last fall. I finally got through it all. And I'm kind of sad because it was probably some of the best beer I ever made in hindsight. It actually did get better sitting in the keg. It really did. But that beer I had fermented out, all the way out, and then I had racked it to another fermenter to add the bourbon and wood chips, but not the finished fermentation. The fermentation was already done, essentially, right? So, or with my wine, I have a carboy full of wine right behind the camera here still, that I'm going to bottle Saturday, finally, after a few months of it sitting here. That's just an aging vessel, not a secondary fermentation vessel. So I kind of go on a rant like that as about that topic, because I'm more about the keep it simple, stupid brewing process, not doing unnecessary stuff, right? Because you start messing with stuff, you start making stuff worse. You could, at least, not always, but you could introduce, in that case, bacteria or air or things that could like stale or taint your beer unnecessarily for very little to no gain, honestly. So when I quit doing that, my beers lasted longer in the kegs, the quality was more consistent and higher, and never looked back. I see a question from Yeast and the Beast here saying, Larry, you got an elevator speech or pitch as to why I should use your Spreadsheet versus Brewfather app. Well, I have my reasons, and actually, I actually do. I actually have an article I wrote on my website a number of years ago on this very topic, not Brewfather specifically, but other apps in general. There are a number of pros to using my Spreadsheet. It's for one, it's more accurate than all the others. I mean, I intentionally designed this thing with accuracy in mind, and I get much better, more accurate, and more predictable results using my Spreadsheet versus any other. There's a number of reasons for it. In the article, I can probably go find this article. It's on my website. Let's see if I can actually pull that up here while I'm talking to you folks. Let's see. I don't even know what I called it anymore. But as far as an elevator pitch, yeah, I can't. It'll take me a few minutes to find it. I don't want to waste you guys' time. But But I have an article out there I can probably post in the description after this live stream's over if you guys want to go back and rewatch it and grab that link. But essentially, a lot of those brewing apps, they use generic grain bills or grain lists and numbers that are just generalized numbers. I actually went through the painstaking process of going to every single maltster on my grain bill on my spreadsheet and going to their data sheets and actually grabbing all those numbers and adding them to the formulas to generate real PPG values to estimate the real original gravities and such without rule of thumb kind of numbers. Another thing I've done with that is that I don't like cloud-based software, and that's what the Brewfather app is. I hate cloud software. It's not your. It's like I hate the subscription model that you have to pay a monthly or annual fee just to maintain access to this functionality. I for other apps as well, other programs too. I'm old school. I actually want the actual software on my in my house, on my local network, and on my computer. I don't want to have to depend on the internet connection being valid. I've been burned by cloud connections in the past by trying to use such tools before. When you need them, they don't work because the cloud or your internet connection's down. Ask Brian; he knows about bad internet connections, right? But there's a few other nuanced little things about my spreadsheet that I think are better. One, I know what I'm getting. All of those other apps out there are black boxes. You really don't know the assumptions and formulas and equations they use to calculate those numbers. Where mine are free and available to anyone to pick apart and see for themselves how things are calculated. So if they have because there's more than one way that these brewing tools calculate values, and that's why they don't all equal one another, right? I mean, you put the same recipe into these different tools, you get different outputs because they all have different assumptions for different things like hop bitterness. There's several different formulations out there, right? Just for example, just for that alone. And I can go on more if something comes to mind, but I've always liked accuracy. Oh, and plus all those other apps and things. Not that it matters too much in the end result if you make the same beer the same way over and over again, but since I switch beer styles and switch brewing systems all the time, I really want an accurate calculator. So in my more recent versions, you might notice that I actually have temperature adjustments for every step of the way. So when you take measurements of your groundwater or your starting water, I account for the thermal expansion every step of the way, or thermal cooling every step of the way. So when you take measurements of your starting water volumes to your mash water volumes to your boil volumes to your post-boil volumes, all the math and calculations, which are all based upon those volumes in terms of original gravity, your IBUs, all that stuff is all based upon water volume as well as the sugars. And most of those brewing tools aren't accurate on either one of those fronts. So mine is. So I've tried to go back to BEER-Smith in the past, and I kept coming back to this. I've tried Brewfather, their little free trial thing once. I gave up because I just don't like clouds computing, especially. That's kind of my rant about that. Not that it's bad. I mean, any estimating software is good, because that's all these brewing tools are just estimators. They're calculators, right? They take formulas which are approximations or experimental formulas from past experience and charting, and they come up with these empirical formulas they use to put in here, and they come up with predictable results. As long as you use that same tool with the same ingredients and the same system all the time, you can get repeatable results. Sure, it's just that when you start mixing things up like I do, I only trust my spreadsheet. That's all. So I hope that helped with you. Question: have I done any kettle sours? No, I have not done kettle sours. I would. The problem with sours is that I like an occasional sour. So when I go out to the local beer garden on a nice hot summer day or something, I like to order. There's this one really popular one here in the Chicagoland area called Pollyanna Brewing Company, and they make excellent I mean, super excellent sours. So if I have a craving for a sour, I just go there because I know I'm going to get a good sour. I don't want 10 gallons of sour in my house because I'd be the only one drinking it. Family won't drink it. Friends won't drink it. Family won't drink it. Nothing, right? So I don't want to have to go through all that sour beer and just drink it all the time, right? So yeah. What else do we have here? Let's see. Comment from Birakoy. Chris says, Larry. He says Larry made a video about his spreadsheet versus cloud apps like a Brewfather. Yeah, I did. It was in context, I think, of the Grainfather as to why I no longer use their app. So that wasn't the Brewfather app; it was the Grainfather app that I was going on about. But it's kind of the same principles there, honestly. So that's true. I did make a video based upon abandoning cloud apps. So I did, yes. Thanks for, boy, you got a good memory because I almost forgot I actually made that video. Man, you guys are great. And then going back to Birakoy's comment about secondary becoming just another opportunity to compromise the finished product, and that was my point, right? I mean, I've made beers through secondary fermentation, which was, again, you let it ferment for 3 or 4 or 5 days and let the fermentation slow. Then you rack it to the secondary vessel to get it off the yeast cake that supposedly will hurt your yeast. That's nonsense. That's been disproven so many times by so many people that those few extra days of contact with your true yeast isn't going to do you any problems. But what you are doing is, like what he says, is introducing the opportunity. And if you're doing a closed system transfer, okay, fine. Not so bad, but when you start getting into brewing and you're starting with the new hobby, you don't do that kind of stuff right away. You're using an auto siphon, or you're using a water-filled hose as your siphon starter, or whatever you're doing to a bucket or something. It's all in the open to the air or whatever, right? So, yeah. So for sure. Yeast and the Beast. He didn't expect a response, but thanks for humoring me. Hey. Yeah, no problem, man. I mean, if you're curious about more about my spreadsheet, reach out to me. I mean, I'll do a private one-on-one with you if you can find a time to do all that, and I can go into more detail about why I think it's better. But anyway, Salvation Brewing was the one that asked a question about the secondary. So he's getting a lot of green apple off flavors. Well, I can't remember the actual chemical now behind that and what causes that. I have to actually go back to my cheat sheets or my old books and take a look. But I'm not sure if the green apple is from that, because generally, if it was a wild bacteria infection from the racking, it'd probably be like sour, like a Brett infection, kind of, I would think. Or it would go stale, like it would taste like almost like wet cardboard is kind of the description. I don't think it does, but stale beer can taste along those lines. I'm not sure what the green apple flavor is. I think it's acetylide or something like that, and I'm not sure now what the cause of that is. So we got a comment from Fermentation Adventures saying that the Brewfather does a crap job of final gravity estimation. Well, and that's my point. And it's no knock against Brewfather. I'm just saying, generally speaking, those apps across the board are not as accurate as somebody. Now, some of those apps now have improved to the point now where you can actually input actual malts or data sheet information in there. But how often do people do that, right? They just take, here's 2-row malt. It's 1.037. Well, maybe it's 1.036 or 1.038. And you think it doesn't really matter, but when you have 10 pounds or 20 pounds of it, depending on your batch size, it does start to matter in terms of the results you get. And again, if the results are fine and they taste good, who cares? But if you're trying for repeatability and consistency, then you want to pay attention to some of those things, right? Some questions here. Let me take a look here. Let me take a look. Comment about Genus Brewing said this year's crop is going to be higher in protein and lower potential fermentables. Well, see, now that's one of the things that's a downside for maintaining my own spreadsheet, because those monster sheets are based upon a sample or samples of a lot from a given year's harvest. And so if you really want to be truly accurate, you would go and update all those properties for all your grains every fall or every time they do a harvest, right? And even then, you don't even know if you're getting last year's grains at the homebrew store or this year's grains. So it's kind of, so, so it's not 100% accurate either. Again, all these brewing tools, including mine, are estimators. It's just that mine estimates better than others, I think. Let's see. The Matchmaker asked a question, is the future of my channel going to be mostly live streams from this point, or will be mixing in some brew days and briskets? I want to do all three, honestly. Problem is, it's a matter of lack of availability and time to do more videos of the latter two, the brews and the barbecue, because those do take many hours of production to film and edit and upload, right? And so I was really hoping, because of my lack of such availability, to be able to fill the gap, so to speak, with some of these live streams in between those videos, because it really is just, not really, but essentially it's just turning on a camera, setting up a time for the live stream, announce the live stream, turn on the camera at the time of the stream, and talk for an hour and a half or two, right? And then you're done, and you don't have to do any more posts, no editing, no follow-up, no hours and hours of late-night video editing and back pain and cramps from sitting in a chair for hours on end, which is what I have a problem with nowadays, being older and all. I can't, I work at a computer, well, actually 2 computers all day long for my day job. The last thing I want to do is switch right around and come to this laptop and work all night long. So that's one of the reasons why I don't do as many videos as well, is that I just, my body can't take it. So I was hoping to fill in the gap with some of these live streams in the interim, in between those videos, if you get my drift, right? Question. Oh, yes, so the green apple is acetyl. I couldn't pronounce it, but that's what I was thinking. Thank you. So that was along the lines. I just couldn't pronounce it correctly. Under pitching might be an issue. I don't know. That's what Gnome Brewing is saying here. But there's easy resources now to go find that out, right? If you just search green apple flavor on some beer forums, or just in general search engine for homebrew, you'll find some suggestions pretty fast, actually, as to what the cause could be and how to fix it. All right, so let me take a look here. Great show live from Top Dog. Thank you very much. Very good. Sitting long in the fermenter. Oh, so going back to fermentation. So that's another thing that I do, is one of the practices I do. So I skip the whole secondary fermentation aspect of this. I just let stuff rip in the one fermenter, the one and only fermenter, until it ferments through, which could be anywhere from just a few days to like a week or so, right? But then I let my beers sit at room temperature, which is, for ales, it's already the room temperature now, but I'll let that sit for a whole nother week. So, and then what that supposedly does, and I think it does help, is the trube and the yeast in the trube or whatever, they can reabsorb some of those off flavors that the yeast actually put into the beer during fermentation, and suck them back out and make the beer taste cleaner. So if that's not what you're doing, maybe give that a try. Let your beer ferment out, and make sure that it sits for another few more days at least at what I call room temperature. So that would be like 68, 70 degrees or something like that. It's not exact, but that's the gist. Yeah. So acetaldehyde normally falls out once the beer clears. That's exactly what I was kind of saying, right? You just want to let it sit and let the diacetyl rest. Well, that cleans up the buttery flavors, though. Man, so much about this hobby, right? I mean, you can dive right on in and make beer, but then you learn more, and then you realize how little you know about the hobby, and then you want to learn more, and you realize, man, the more I learn about how little I know from the A to Z's, and you keep learning, and now you become obsessed with learning everything you can about the hobby, to the point where you forget what you learned because you learn new stuff, and what came in one side of your head went out the other. Something else had to fall out, and all that, right? So yeah. $9.99 from Fermentation Adventures. Hey man, cheers Larry, thanks for sharing your time with us. Well, yeah, no problem. Salute to you again. I think because you tipped earlier, didn't you? I think it was. Well, anyway, Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Hmm. So anyway, what was it? I was on off top. I was going this way, then I went that way with the topic, and then so that was okay. So we touched on some of that fermentation stuff. Another question someone had was about beer gear, things I would or things that I bought and wouldn't buy, things I got and would buy again, or things I'll never buy at all, right? And that could be a whole long discussion because there's so much stuff out there now. In fact, this is actually kind of timely because I got a comment from someone on one of my recent videos. It was kind of a rant, which didn't make any sense because it was out of context for what was being talked about in the video. I was just like, why is this guy ranting on and on and on? I mean, it was like, if I go back and find it, you can see the scrolls and scrolls and scrolls and scrolls. And he's pretty much calling everyone a moron, including me apparently, who's into this hobby because we're all into gadgets. And gadgets don't make good beer. And right? And yes, it is true, you don't need fancy, shiny, expensive gadgets to make good beer. He's like, oh, the monks used to do it back in the 1200s, blah, blah, blah. Right? It's like the guy was all over the map. I mean, all over the map. I mean, it was just like, I didn't even respond to it because I'm like, where do I start? I have to write an essay back to this guy. I don't want to waste my time with this moron. So, but he did have a small point in that, is that some people may get so gung-ho about the new next shiny gadget they got to have it. Well, good on them. That's their decision. That's their money. They want to do it in their hobby. Fine. Don't harass them over it. Me, I kind of waffle back and forth because I started brewing with a DIY cooler system I built. Right? You guys remember that? And I was completely happy with it. I was very basic. Just a hydrometer, just a cooler mash tun. One kettle, one burner, no pumps. I did that for years, and it was making fine beer. It was just fine. I didn't have any problem with it. And then because of the channel growing, and I learned more from you and some companies about stuff, new products. And back when I started brewing 22 years ago, it was like there wasn't all this gadgets, man. I mean, you really had to almost build your own system. I mean, you truly did, and now, but there's so much stuff out there, and things like, I guess the examples I saw in the comments were about ice spindles and tilts and refractometers and all these gravity reading devices, even the easy dens, which I actually have over here. Right, I have this little gadget now. Not cheap, by the way, but I did get it on sale on Black Friday a number of months ago, right? But to me, that one device was worth the money because the trouble of taking hydrometer measurements and letting them cool and adjusting for temperature, or taking refractometer readings and have to adjust for color and work correction factors, and having a running log of data to calibrate your correction factor to get accurate readings that most of us don't actually do. So your refractometer readings really aren't actually accurate. They're just, close, right? But even with that, it was like, yeah, you got to take a sample, you got to calibrate it with distilled water to zero every time you use it and all that. It was just always a slight hassle. So when I got this Easy Dens, the thing was like solved all my troubles. I can take samples, just a few drops, basically throw it in there, get an accurate reading, and it charts it for me, and then I can export it to a CSV file that I can use elsewhere, right? It's actually pretty cool. But I guess the point is, do I need that? No, I don't need that. I don't even need a hydrometer to make beer. I don't need any of that stuff. Yeah, it's true, you don't. But the guy was ranting on about how the monks used to do it. Well, they also made very inconsistent beer, probably a very dirty and contaminated beer. They still drank it because it was better than the nasty, dirty shit water they had to drink from the sewer down the hill or whatever, right? So I mean, it's all relative, right? It's like nowadays you don't have to brew beer that old way. You can make better, clear, consistent, better tasting beer with even just still some basic pieces of equipment. So I thought that guy's comment was just asinine, honestly. Didn't even dignify it with a response. But again, he had a point, right? I mean, what gadgets does one need to make a good beer? And I made beer in a small pot on my stove with extract brewing. Made fine beer, okay beer. It was fine. Super great, not as good as I make today. And so the beers I make today, do I have all these fancy gadgets and things? Well, I have a couple. I mean, I finally bought my first pH meter last year. Never used one before. I used to use the pH strips, and being colorblind, it was a little hard to see the colors on those little tabs, right? So I've invested some, right? I mean, moving to electric brewing from like propane, was that required to make good beer? No, but did it make my life a hell of a lot easier? Yeah. Some people will say, well, why don't I use like a tilt thermometer, a tilt hydrometer, or whatever, right? Well, truth is, why? I mean, my opinion, I'm not that impatient to want to sit there and watch a little chart of it fermenting out over a period of days. From experience, I know, depending on the style, the pitch rate, I know it's going to be done in X number of days, most likely. And I usually wait a full 2 weeks for that rest period anyway, so I'm in no rush. So why do I feel like I want to spend money on a gadget of that type? Well, I don't, but I'm not going to make fun of someone who does, because maybe they want to see that kind of stuff, right? It's just like, yeah. So, some more. I see a lot of comments scrolling by here. Pressure fermentation. I saw some comments on there. Pressure fermentation is great. That's another newer thing that the monks of the 12th century didn't have, or whatever. Right? Pressure fermentation. It's actually really been great. It's been a huge benefit for me and lots of people. Do you need to pressure ferment? No. But does it help? Yeah. Not all the time, but for certain beer styles, it does help. There's things that's not so good at, right? I mean, if you want the estery profiles in a beer, like a Weiss beer or something like that, you probably don't want to pressurize your fermenter, but I would still use the pressure fermenter with the pressure turned like basically off or wide open, because I can use that same pressure fermenter to close it up and do a close transfer to my keg immediately after without having to expose it to the air. So even when I don't do pressure fermentation, I still prefer to use my pressure capable fermenters for fermenting anyway. It makes my life so much easier. I don't have to refrigerate the beer. The beer ferments so much faster at the higher temperatures that you can ferment with pressure fermentation. There's a whole slew of advantages to having pressure fermentation, but how much money do you want to spend? You want to buy the plastic ones for $100? Do you want to buy those big giant 3-legged roller conicals for $1,000 or whatever? I mean, it's whoever's call. You guys want to go do it. But me, I kind of settled in on that niche somewhere in the middle. I kind of learned conical fermenters aren't my bag, baby, like Austin Powers would say in those movies, right? It's honestly, it's not mine. But I prefer the other style, with the bucket style, and not just buckets, but like the Spike Flex Plus, which with just the cone bottom, but no dump valve, right? Fermenters without dump valves, I don't need them because I don't transfer and that often. I usually go right to the keg. If I'm using a pressure fermenter already, why not just pressure ferment it and close transfer it right out the top and over into your vessel? Why even bother with a dump valve, right? Those are the things that I've discovered over the past few years doing that. And you brew how you want and do it how you want. That's why it's a hobby. We do it the way we want to do it. I found my niche finally after trying a number of various approaches, and I found what I like and what I don't like, and now I'm doing what I like, which means no conicals. But again, that's me and my process and my house. Perhaps if I had a dedicated brew room, like some of you guys have really nice ones out there, maybe I might think something different about that. But the way I brew and the space and constraints and things, I just go with the bucket style, which includes the keg blender now, which I haven't yet used. I haven't made a batch of beers since I made this batch of beer, but this was already in the works when that arrived. So now I have to brew another batch of beers soon, in it just to see how that works. Christopher Vodka says, Larry might be my dad. Why do you say that? Oh, Kevin Doddridge says, does pressure fermentation reduce esters? Yes, that's why it's not good for styles that would benefit from it. Now, I learned a lesson the hard way because I brewed a Hefeweizen with the 15 psi set, and it came out tasting just like a not bland. It didn't taste like a banana-y, clovey flavored Weiss beer at all. I was kind of perplexed, and I looked into it, and I said, oh yeah, because of the esters, that's why you use the Weihenstephan yeast or whatever to give those esters, and you need the esters, you need to ferment warmer to get those, but the pressure kind of reduces the ester formation to make a cleaner beer. So that's why pressure fermentation is awesome for lagers, because you can actually ferment lagers in a matter of days rather than weeks, and get them into a keg in a matter of a number of more days rather than a number of months at a refrigerated temperature, right? So you can actually suppress esters, ferment warmer, and get it done so much faster. I mean, lagers are awesome. I turned a neighbor of mine down the street onto lager pressure fermentation when I gave him my old conicals. So I gave away my Firmzilla, my and a few others already. And he called me up a couple of weeks ago and says, this is the best thing ever, man. I mean, I have a lager to drink in time for the Super Bowl. I didn't think I'd have it done in time. I said, yep, pressure fermentation. Awesome. Very awesome. I should start my own podcast. You know, it's funny you say that, because when I was looking into doing more of these live streams, it's like, well, I'm doing a podcast. Well, this is just a YouTube live stream. The podcast can be broadcast to YouTube, but it's also available on other platforms as what a podcast normally is. Now, I looked into that briefly, and when I saw what each of these services, because there's probably like 5 or 6 of these major podcast subscription services that you have to pay a monthly fee for to be able to upload your podcasts to, and when I added all the cost and prices up to do it completely, it was going to be between $100 and $200 a month. So I said, there's no way I'm going to be able to fork out, between $1,200 and $2,400 a year just to upload videos without any money coming back at me, right? I mean, it was just going to be like a lost sunk thing. But so anyway, Kevin. So if you want to reduce esters, that would be a way to do it, using pressure fermentation. Now, on the flip side, David Heath, for those who follow David Heath's channel, he posted a video somewhat recently, not as most recent, but somewhat recently, a video on pressure fermentation guide, and he says, and he's right on this, I think, is that you can use pressure fermentation for estery beers if you want the esters in them. But he says what you do is that you open up the PRV on the pressure vessel and let it ferment as a normal beer, basically, for a few days until the vigorous part of the fermentation starts to slow down, and then you dial up the pressure after that. And he says, and I haven't tried this though, but he says then you should be able to get those esters still in the beer and still do a pressure fermentation. Something maybe worth considering. I see some more comments here. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just trying to get caught up in some of the comments. The problem with trying to read the screen comments here is that they scroll by faster than I can keep up with them. If I wanted to scroll back a ways, I probably have to open up my actual real chat window behind all these other windows, and then I'm going to be looking down here and not up here or over here. So I'll just read off the screen here if you guys don't mind. If there's something I didn't answer, just ask it again. And maybe I'll catch it this time, or do a super chat again, and then maybe we'll see that, because it'll be bright yellow and it'll show up right up on there. Let's see here. So Harold says, for the podcast, put it behind a cheap yearly paywall on your website, Larry. Well, I guess that's not how those podcast services work. I mean, I can, but then I have to pay for my own storage space, my own server space, and nobody using any of those podcast apps on their phones can even find it without actually going to the website and clicking on it there. And who really does that? Most people just go through their podcast app and scroll and look at their subscriptions, just like on YouTube, right? It's just a matter of convenience. I wouldn't expect to get a following if I did it that way, honestly. But that's not, I mean, it's an idea. I thought about that too initially, right? Just, it didn't seem like the pros were that good for that. So let me check on my time here. It's actually been an hour. I don't want to go on too long and drag this out because who wants to sit and watch a 2-hour live stream? I mean, I know I don't. I don't watch 2-hour live streams myself. I will dive in for a while, go out, maybe I'll come back later or whatever, right? But if I rant and rave for too long, then I start to sound monotone and a little boring, I'd imagine, right? So, I'll answer a few more questions. I got to finish up my beer here. So when I finish up this beer, I'm going to bid you all an adieu and probably try to look for time to edit. I got some videos in the works. I have the homebrew canner, the new bench MK or whatever from October Design. I canned a 12-pack finally of this beer recently. Shot some video of it. It was pretty successful. But it kind of reminded me a little bit back to the bottling days. And that was kind of, I mean, this is kind of why I went to kegging, right? To get away from bottling. Canning is better than bottling, I think, but it's still similar because now you got to fill every single can. You got to fill it up. You got to put the thing on. You got to put your beer gun or your bottle filler down, and then you put it in the machine. Then you can one, wipe it clean, put it down, grab another one, grab your beer filler, do it again, and it just takes a while, right? It was nice to have canned beer, though. I was able to take it out with me out to parties or poker games or disc golf outings. You can go out there and just throw it in your bag. You don't have to collect the bottles to bring them home later. You just kind of just pitch them or whatever, or recycle them. So it does have its benefits, but and it's cool as hell. It is really cool to be able to can your own beer. But I find myself, if I'm going to be going out to drink beer in the next day or so, I will just go back and fill a swing top bottle right off the tap, cap it, and drink it later. And I don't have to rinse, clean, wash, set anything up, sanitize hardly anything, and I'm done. But if you're going to want to do a whole batch of beer, like I was starting to do with a 12-pack, then the economies of scale go, okay, then I will do a whole batch of cans, and therefore you could have a case of your homebrew that you can take out and give the people and send the people and not ask for the bottles back and things like that. So there's pros and cons to it. I just got to get that video done, and some other ones I've actually had in the works. This time escapes me, right? The question about a cream ale, I think I saw there. I think that just scrolled by. Have I done a California Common, which is basically a steam beer, right? That's what we used to call them back in the day, steam beers, with it was like an ale brewed with lager yeast, I think it was, right? I think I may have done one years ago as an extract brew or something. I mean, I like Anchor Steam, which is I think the flagship or the premier example of that style, I think. So I do like it. Just haven't had it in years now that you mention that. Wow, it's amazing. So Mike says he's watched live streams for 4 hours. Yeah, well, I've done those marathon 5+ hour live stream days, right? And I try to make those as entertaining as possible, right? Because it's a long stream and there's a lot of hurry up and wait, as you know, right? You gotta, the timer went off. We gotta recirculate. We gotta add hops. And so you're doing all that stuff, but then you just sit and wait for the next step to go along, and you want to fill that dead space with stuff, which is why it's fun to have people over. You can kill the time, or do a live stream and kill time, or both. Have people over and do a live stream, like I've done a lot recently. Right? That's actually the most fun, is having actually people over and doing a live stream together. That's actually the most fun I have, honestly. A little stressful because things can go wrong. Your brew day can run long. You're not focused on the recipe, so you might forget to add something, which I do often during live streams. If I was alone and chilling out on my own, and I'll know exactly what to record, what to add as I go. And so that's the downside to doing those live stream brew days, or even having people over and not even doing a live stream. It's just distractions, right? Oh, Speaking of live streams, check this out. Now, you guys remember, was it I think it was the August live stream I did last August, where we had a incident across the street with the cops and everything. And I was trying to show you guys from my little webcam in the garage, and we really couldn't see it very well because it's so far away. And I was like, man, my security cameras are outside too. I really should plug those in. Well, check this out. So if I go to my security cam footage, so you're probably looking at this now. So it's snowing, obviously. But yeah, so now I got 2 cameras. I can look across the street now during a live stream and show it to all of you if this ever happens again. So it's hysterical. In fact, I could even do things like this. Hold on a second here. I have to launch it. And we can watch TV. So if you guys want to watch TV, we can watch TV. I did all kinds of crazy things here. I have a mobile cam. Hold on here. Let me show you this mobile cam thing. I have to launch the app now. Hold on a minute here. Let me go back to, here we go. So if I go to my mobile cam, so if I do this, hold on a minute. I have to do this. Yeah. So, all right. So there I am. So I can actually start screwing around with a mobile cam that I can carry places, and I can actually go around my house now and talk about stuff. So I thought that's pretty cool too. So my next live stream should be more fun with more camera angles than last time. Oh, Harold, hey man, thanks for that. $20, man, you rock, man. Hope someone else is live streaming remotely. That way I can stay off camera. I'm shy. Yeah, that's right. Well, Harold, yeah, well, I've invited you over, but I know that you don't want to be on camera. So, host someone else's live stream remotely, though. How do you do that? I don't know how to do that. It's interesting. Who would I remote host? Would I don't know. I mean, like go to somebody else's house and stream like this remotely? Well, maybe, but it really depends. I mean, I kind of have a setup here that takes me actually took me weeks, honestly, of tuning and figuring out how to set up cameras and how to run the cables in my garage and how to set up the wireless and the networking, make sure I had enough bandwidth, and I had to change my resolution and change the bit rate so I wouldn't, go get all pixely and blocky and things like that. And that took me, and then get to dial in the audio and the acoustics in the room, put the noise filters on the microphone. There's so much going on behind this just to make it sound and look like this at my house. Imagine me spending days of working at someone else's house trying to set up for a 5-hour live stream. I mean, it sounds like a great idea, but if I just show up and plug in something, odds are the live stream isn't going to work or work well. But that's an idea. And then also, let me answer some questions here. Where's the drone view? So that's what a question, man. G60 guys. So for those of you who don't know, I have a video drone that I bought last summer and I used initially on that barbecue rib cook-off that I go to usually every year. But I went to last year, right? And I had a shot of me flying into to all the tents and pop-ups and flying between them and stuff, showing off everything. And that's a really cool accessory because I can actually do a pan across an area without having to walk and shake the camera as I try to do it. I can actually just side stick the controller and the thing just goes sideways and tracks completely smooth for those kind of shots. Now, can I connect that to a live stream? I don't know. I don't think so because I can get a preview, like a low-res preview on my controller, on my phone. That's the controller from the sky, but the bandwidth is so slow and so low, and the wireless is connected to the drone, not to my network, so I don't think that's possible. But it is fun to use for videos for sure. So anyway, okay, well, I'll tell you what, guys, there's one thing I want to show you before I go. I actually saved this for a what I call a bio break or a 10-100. Because if I'm doing a solo stream and I got to step away, you know what I'm saying? There's going to be nobody here to take over like I do for the brew days. So I had to come up with something to fill the slot. So as I sign off here, I am going to play this little clip for you guys as a farewell clip this time, but probably in future videos, the longer they go and the more I drink, the more I probably will want to use this little clip here. So thanks for joining, and I'll play this clip for you. All right, see you guys. Just as a reminder, this is my bio break clip. This is what's going on.